Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Wow, for the first time in a very long time, I actually saw Thomas sitting at a desk taking notes in preparation for today's show. Thomas, what do you have for our lineup?
Well, you had talked about Peter Thiel and what he is saying to the president. And it's been in the news repeatedly that he's saying that China has given artificial intelligence, has been given through Eric Schmidt and other people. And Eric Schmidt has denied that, of course. And then it came up again. And now, of course, Trump is calling in and has previously called in one head of a Silicon Valley fake company, which was actually probably more than likely, started in the Highlands Forum Group, where the venture capitalists give international weapons dealers, basically. And remember, this is also not just the Department of Defense that does this in Highlands Forum Group. It's also the CIA and In-Q-Tel. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because that's where the real war is happening. Now, there are multiple wars going on right now, and I want to see if I can quell some fears, because there are many questions being asked about technology, 5G, what's happening with China, how in the world can all this be going on, how far has it come in America, do we have a social credit system here, all these different things. They're terrifying people, especially the 5G considerations. So, I'm going to explain it. It's not easy to understand. So put your hat on, your thinking cap. We are now controlled in America. Well, we were up until the time that Donald Trump was elected. And if he is not reelected, we will be. Hillary Clinton, okay, when you say Hillary Clinton, you say Walmart, you say Sam Walton, you say Arkansas, you say Chinese investment in Hillary Clinton's Arkansas and Walmart from the beginning, the largest company in the world. What did they get? More than 51% of the household manufacturing needs in America. This was the plan. She is a communist. She works directly for, and the reason this is true is because no one in China gets to open a company unless the Central Committee, the totalitarian Communist Central Committee ran by President Xi, has their say. They always have final say, and they always have a bigger cut than anybody. And if they want to change the size of their cut, they do. So anyone doing business in China is going to be subjected to what I like to make a joke of, which is when President Xi came out and said the one road, one belt, one belt, one road. What does that really mean to me?
My way or hit the highway.
Correct. You're either going to get on my road or I'm going to hit you with a belt. I mean, this is the most ridiculous attempt at overt communist Chinese takeover of the world that we've ever seen in history. And it was almost completed because Hillary Clinton has the crypto keys. And where is she? Her operations have moved from America to Shanghai and to Singapore. For instance, Broadcom almost merged with Qualcomm and got the 5G contract. They were 1 inch from it until Trump listened to some little birdie speaking in his ear and stopped the CFIUS committee from allowing this. And now, what has he done? He's written executive orders and put sanctions on anyone who has anything to do with Huawei, the Chinese company that provides 5G for Britain, was providing it, getting ready to do it for all of the European Union, and almost got the contract here in America underneath the guise of it being an American company. It is not an American company. And now that they put Richard C. Walker, as they pulled him out of the closet, he has the Internet of Things patent, the patent that we talk about all the time. And this patent is the very thing that has been put in place in China that is called the social credit system, or has been called Dragonfly. The very system that Peter Thiel is explaining to President Trump so he understands that it's already being placed here in America, and making sure that Trump understands that this is an attack.
Well, Peter Thiel is no friend to us. Why has he got the president's ear?
He's just trying to later get out of the crimes that he's already committed. Because what's going to happen with the new executive order is that Trump is going to take over through the Decency in Broadcasting Act the question of whether these social media are broadcasters or platforms. And no matter how they go, he's got them now. Okay? If they're platforms, then They need to reinstate the 16,000 people that they already knocked off because they were conservatives who have made their formal complaints to Trump. And these are real formal complaints that could go into a lawsuit. And then all the people who've been demonetized because they were middle of the road or right tending, because the left has taken over. Now, the left had to take over because they didn't defeat Trump in 2016, though they had put in place Eric Schmidt's digital news service. They'd already put in the U.S. digital service for Obama, which coordinated every single speck of information that can be gleaned from any electronic interaction that you have on the internet or anywhere in any computer that is connected to the government. They've all been brought to one hub, and that was the hub that was controlling the 2016 election. Now, let's go back. Communism. We think we can't be communists in this country. Thomas Paine in the ass of the globalists is crazy to call Hillary Clinton a communist. No, I'm 100% accurate. Listen, Walmart is a company that has its principal work out of China for all of that time, especially, and the Clintons are a paid member of the board. So every single time, now, oh, wait, stop. Oh, hold it. Brakes. Walmart. How come people are walking into Walmart and shooting people all over America? That's because there are control systems. They have now triggered people that they radicalized, and they can use Peter Thiel's system called Palantir, which is the same system that the Global Engagement Center uses and can use in the CIA, and anybody else that wants to use it. You can buy the system and go in, surveil, target, attack, and manipulate anybody online. You can radicalize them to be whatever you want. You can use subliminal, if you have the subliminal programming to go with it, which of course the military does. So, what I'm telling you is, if Hillary would have been elected, cyber communism would have come to this country. China would have got the 5G contract. They would have sterilized everyone in America. The 5G is necessary to bring in the robot warriors. You have to have what's called a full spectrum battlefield. Obama, through the National Defense Authorization Act, made all of us terrorists. So he has targeted all of us. We're all terrorists until proven otherwise. And you saw that with Trump. He's guilty till proven otherwise. That's what we're in right now when you're working with the cyber warlords. So Trump is in a major war with them in Silicon Valley right now. And we're talking about that. What's going to happen with the executive order doesn't matter. No matter how, there's three ways that I see that it can go. All three are a win for us and for Trump. And it's a huge loss. It's a huge extinction event for the Silicon Valley fake cardboard cutout warlord kings.
Well, I just want to make sure that the shareholders of Leader Technologies, the company that invented the scalability that they're all riding on, get paid. I don't want to see any of these executive orders that sweeps the original crime under the rug, Thomas.
You're right, and that's where I'm going next. IBM, International Business Machines.
You mean Nazi IBM, where we've already shown that IBM has Nazi roots and they've never shook them.
Remember, IBM gave their laptop production and microchip production and semiconductor production to China. So IBM is China. IBM went to China, and of course, the totalitarian communist Central Committee is in charge of anything to do with IBM in that country. But then it spread to the world through their Lenovo laptops, through the 5G installations that they were doing, and through all the tech that they've stolen. And you know that Trump has come in and said, the intellectual property theft of China is one of the worst things that's ever happened. He absolutely...
Well, then how come the intellectual property theft of good, hardworking Americans isn't talked about? And it's not just Michael McKibben and Leader Technologies. It's all over the place. The U.S. Patent Office is seriously corrupt, people. If you are an entrepreneur and a creator, do not put your patent in there. All they'll do is steal it and leave you on the curbside.
Absolutely. And the reason is because they consider every American a terrorist, according to the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, in 2003, when they started to get a handle on this information war and the cyber field of battle, which includes all of us, every one of us is an enemy on the cyber field of battle. according to the government. So they developed a program called Total Information Awareness, TIA. And in 2003, so it was discovered, and people called them out on it. And what it is it takes all digital information about you, creates a profile, and basically then puts you in that box and locks it and keeps the key. And that's what is going on. And that's what's happened with Dragonfly in China, now the social credit system. And they changed it at the end of 2003 and said, oh, we closed that. Yeah, they closed it. Here's what they did. Instead of total information access, they changed the name to terrorism information access. Why? Because they consider all of us terrorists.
Well, let's be very clear of who the terrorists are on this planet. And what we're really looking at is the Queen, her Privy Council, the Pilgrim Society that have been terrorizing us for hundreds of years, been propagandizing citizens to send their sons and daughters to war where they were left as bloody fodder on the field so that the banksters could make more money. That's what this is about. We need to overthrow our rulers. Now, how can we get there from where we are here?
Oh, it's very simple. For instance, the system, Total Information Awareness, turned into Terrorism Information Awareness, and we've all been put into a digital box. Thank you very much, Eric Schmidt, Google, which he now went to Alphabet, and then he jumped and he became just the Director of Research and Development for Boston Dynamics, and particularly for the company that owns the only AI in the world, DeepMind 1 and 2, which is a British company, and he is the director. I
told you, it goes back to the bloody Brits.
Oh, we're going to the Brits here. So remember, when you say China, you say Brits. Don't forget that, folks. When you say Israel, you say Britain. Britain created Israel. Britain has never left China. Britain has never left America. We did not win the American Revolution, folks, and I'm about to explain a little bit of how that works.
And before you go there, I always like to remind people, when I speak so mean about the British, I'm not talking about the good patriots that are fighting the good fight right there on the ground with us, patriots around the world, overthrowing these shackles of tyranny that have been ruling us for hundreds of years. I am talking about the very people that are doing it. I'm talking about the Queen who says we can't talk about her pedophile children. I mean, can you believe that official statement that we can't talk about Prince Andrew being on Lolita Express, being with those underage children? What is it with this Queen?
There was a court ruling from the Queen's own court that said all mention of Andrew must be stricken from the record.
I call a global meme war on Prince Andrew and his pedophilia.
Please do, because that's the kind of thing that needs to take down the British monarchy, which is the last vestige of an institution that was taught through the Vatican, which was taught by those who ran the banks in Venice, and that whole thing that we've talked about. Now, let's go back to terrorism. And we are terrorists, okay? And so that's the way that China treats all of its people.
We have been labeled terrorists.
Oh, no.
We are not terrorists.
No, they consider all of us terrorists. And what they want to do is our money is our weapon. So here in America, they created Dragonfly as a commercial system. So you have a credit score. And every time you see what they call a hack, it's not a hack. Nobody goes in and hacks fantastic amounts of information. That's a lie. Those are breaches. For the OPM or for Equifax or whoever you want, doesn't matter. Your banks, all of them. If this organization that runs it, and it's based upon Richard C. Walker's patent number 6965816, we call it the Internet of Things, but it's actually called the PFN track system. It is communist totalitarianism in America. There's a patent for it, and all patents below it or after it are subsumed by this overarching patent. That patent is Dragonfly. That is a credit system. It was used first off for commercialism, and that's the reason that Facebook, which again was another system that was created by Highlands Forum, NQTEL, SAIC, and now Lidos, and now it's being run by, they just bought L3. Okay, so LifeLog was the name of it before. Facebook is nothing more than the stolen patents that IBM Eclipse Foundation made into open source that were then used by the Silicon Valley giants for all aspects of going onto the internet in any large way. We call it social networking, but it's really more than that. Anytime that you can go on and have a single sign-on, you are using a stolen patents in a system that Hillary Clinton started in Little Rock, Arkansas, involved the Brits, brought in Serco, and Serco's been managing the theft of patents ever since. So when those people who I would call the technological cabal, that would include, shockingly, Robert Mueller, James Comey.
That's not shocking. We've known that Mueller holds the encryption keys with Hillary.
Cap and Podesta, Summers, Chandler, the Clintons, all of the people who all the time are guilty and never, ever, ever get charged, or it just 5 federal investigations in the Clinton Foundation, all of which we don't know what happened to them. They obviously weren't completed, or if they were, we were never told. Folks, that's communism. And you could say, who's the President Xi for American communism? Well, it used to be Hillary Clinton, Bill and Hillary. She was trying to be the queen, mimic the queen. And of course, it goes back to the Queen's British Privy Council. Of course, we know that. And then who else? It's the person who puts forth the most money for political manipulations in the media. That would be George Soros in America. $86 billion given just last year to go to non-government organizations. So what we have here is a very clear system that was started in America in pieces. And then when Eric Schmidt went to China, all of a sudden, bingo, bango, they instantaneously have Dragonfly. He comes back and says it won't be implemented for years. Lie, it was implemented then, and 2 million Uyghur Muslims have died because of it, and tens of thousands of Chinese have been put in jail because of it, and I'll explain that in just a minute. But he went there, and what did he take with him? He simply took with him LifeLog, which is Facebook. He simply took with him the Google search mechanism called Mimics, which was developed again by DARPA and In-Q-Tel. These are the Department of Defense, the CIA, and their venture capital-backed weaponization think tank called Highlands Forum. So they get the product that the military is done with. So remember that TIA, it remained TIA. It went from total information awareness to terrorism information awareness. The programs, and then it turned into basketball. The programs just changed. Now call it Dragonfly. But when Eric Schmidt's confronted by it, he won't admit it. What it is now, I'll go to China in a minute, but in America, he created the digital news service. Every single piece of news that is broadcast has to now be approved because we're all terrorists, according to the National Defense Authorization Act, and the Board of Broadcasting Governors controls everything being broadcast as propaganda in foreign nations, and now controls the propaganda being broadcast in America, which is now legal, according to Obama. Trump took out some of the elements of it so that the surveillance end was supposed to stop, but it hasn't. So it continues. It's called AVID. It's what appears on the prompters of all the major news media except for Fox, that's a fake thing. They have to have an enemy, so Fox is the enemy. Everyone else is, of course, strict left, crazy fascist fake news supporting who? War. The same Fortune 500 investors, bankers, in asset management companies that own the Fortune 500 companies, which, of course, all of the military-industrial complex, every one of them that gets a contract from the United States government military is in the Fortune 500. So as long as you can afford to buy those big stocks, you're always going to win as long as you keep war going. And that's what's going on. Eric Schmidt went over there and he created for them a bastardized version of what was being called the U.S. Digital Service here, the Digital News Service, and what was also the Atlantic Council, and George Soros gave $1.5 billion to Facebook to use the Digital Forensic Research Laboratory AI, they call it, artificial intelligence. It's not. It's just a scrubbing system of subroutines that goes in and makes sure that anybody who is speaking anything that the left doesn't like, in other words, anything that George Soros doesn't fund through his NGOs, his non-government organizations, then they are simply squelched or thrown off. And also, and this has already taken away free speech in Europe and particularly in Britain, they also have a dozen fact checkers, and there's many names I could give you, doesn't matter. Same thing in America. You now see fact checkers popping up to tell you that something you're about to read is wrong. Okay? That's George Soros. So when you work with George Soros and Eric Schmidt and what they're doing and what they've already done, and remember that in the 2016 election, the Strategic Communications Laboratory had a $76 million contract with the Global Engagement Center. And they were the ones who faked the whole Russian interference in our election. It wasn't. It was British. And then at the end, they tried to blame their sub-company, Cambridge Analytica, which was used by Brad Parscale to look at 280,000 questionnaires that were done in Britain for Brexit. They weren't even Americans. Now we hear that it's 50 million Americans' information were bought by the Trump campaign. That's a lie. They've already come out and told us it's a lie. Completely a lie. Anybody could buy that information at the time for about $5 through Facebook. And we showed you how to go and do that. All of your information was completely open to anyone who wanted to buy it for commercial or military purposes. It doesn't matter. And the military had direct access. The Global Engagement Center used a program just like Palantir, just like they're using in China for their social credit system called Dragonfly, and they want to deny it. I'll tell you who it really is in a minute, so hang on for this broadcast. The big ending is coming, and I'm going to tell you some things that we've only said once before, and it's the biggest thing that is going on. It's the biggest war going on, and no one even knows that it's going on. And I have to say all this just to build up to be able to tell you what I'm about to tell you. So Cambridge Analytica got Facebook a $50 billion fine, didn't it? I mean, $5 billion fine, excuse me. And Mark, what do we call him? Mark of the Beast Zuckerberg didn't even know what the fine was for because he's too stupid to understand. He's nothing more than a puppet, okay? So Google didn't invent anything. They used a program called Mimic. So does Yahoo, Dogpile, all of them. Every one of them. Anyone doing a search engine on the internet, no matter what they tell you, is using one that has a government backdoor in it called Mimics. Anything that is doing any social networking all comes from what is called LifeLog, which is nothing more than a small extension of what was called Total Information Access Awareness. Now, how did that happen? How in the world could this happen in America? Well, because of that very patent I told you about Richard C. Walker, who now claims to be the head of Broadcom.com, which is a Hillary Clinton company ran out of Shanghai. Okay? So, and I'm getting ready to drop the big bomb on them. I'm going to tell you how they do this, and I'm going to tell you how it's going to end. And you will be shocked. You truly will be shocked. It's so simple. And Trump has already done it. I'm only telling you facts. I'm not giving you any speculation.
Or I could just end suspense and just tell them right now.
No, don't do it.
Well, then get to it.
No, I got to make sure that it's all built up for this. Okay. So that patent, the Internet of Things, is called a aggressive remote control center. And once they put the chips in us, in our palm, you know, that little tiny thing they've inserted in people in Sweden and in Denmark, and they're so thrilled because they don't have to use cards anymore, credit cards. They just swipe their hand, and it's in their body. And, of course, now the chips that they want to put in and the wiring they want to put in, direct interface, will be directly interfaced with a war field called full spectrum war. What's it called? Full spectrum war arena. Okay? That's what they're using on us. And that's the reason the satellites are going into space to beam down 5G. Why would they be allowing 17,000 satellites to go into space to beam down 5G when they're installing it as fast as they can in America? Right now, 7 cities are having it installed so fast nobody can even keep track. And it's killing animals. It's killing people are complaining, lawsuits everywhere. The grassroots movement against it is because why? It's killing people. But why do they have to have it? Not just for the driverless cars, not just for the drones that can deliver your pizza. It's for the robots. Now, who controls the robots? Boston Dynamics. Who controls the research for that? Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt gave all of that research. It's not research, they're plans. And if you haven't seen what the Atlas robot can do right now, it will blow your mind. It can knock down walls with its hand. It can do flips in the air. It can outrun a human.
And that's why we have to protect our Second Amendment. It's not so that we can go duck hunting. It's so that we can protect our families from the encroachment of this kind of tyranny on all of us. And America is one of the last places standing where the Second Amendment is still standing. They continue like this turncoat, Dan Crenshaw, and these red flag laws. No, we're sick and tired of it. There should be no infringement of our Second Amendment rights. If I want to have a house full of AR-15s to protect myself from Eric Schmidt and these tyrannical robots that could be approaching, I should be able to do it without getting some kind of background check. I'm sorry. The Second Amendment is there to protect us.
It is. The digital tyranny. Look, in China, it's the digital tyranny. They have no guns. You're absolutely right.
When those robots come to your door, that's no longer digital. That's in your face, taking you out. Why do you think they had all those FEMA camps? You remember, people. You remember the pictures of all those coffins. You remember the orders for the guillotines. This is what Hillary Clinton and Eric Schmidt and Mark the Zucker Beast had planned for us. So don't think for 1 minute that, we should just put down our guns and be nice and everybody be nice. No, this is a United Nations gun grab. And Americans, whenever you see these false flags and then they try to take out our guns, go out and buy yourself an extra pack of ammo.
Absolutely. Absolutely. China can do nothing to resist its totalitarian communist government because they have no weapons.
Yes.
Okay?
Europe can't either. England, you have to put your knives in a box on the street. Oh, what? So the Sharia law-abiding citizens can come and get those knives and use them against you? This is insane. And it goes again back to the Queen, the Privy Council, the Pilgrim Society, and all these elite thugs who are running the planet. They run it like a mob. That's why you can have the number one inmate in the world locked up and all of a sudden goes missing.
So this isn't about foreign countries necessarily, though we can see how quickly it advances in fascist or communist countries. So name a fascist country. Look at North Korea. Do they have weapons? No. They also don't. They're also controlled on their internet, and the internet is a weapon. And without the 5G, they can't launch the robots, and the robots have a horse that comes with them and a dog, and that dog can basically do things you can't even imagine. They're undefeatable, basically, unless we create new weapons to stop them. And that's only just the tip of the iceberg. There's control. The 5G, all the Chinese through Broadcom would have had to do is turn it up. Once it was installed, all the eggs of every female in America would have been toast. They would have been cooked and dead. And sterilization. It's
still going on.
Oh, it's absolutely being installed as we speak in a minimum of 7 cities.
And then on another front, you have the Tavistock Institute creating these brainwashed zombies that now that they're waking up that are just going absolute nuts.
Eric Holder and Obama gave weapons to the cartels that keep the border open, that bring the drugs up into Chicago, where there is more mass murdering, that we are, Rahm Emanuel, institutionalized mass murdering. Not only that, they are begging, the people don't understand. Who do you think is funding these invasions? Believe it or not, George Soros, Spanish-speaking only NGOs centered in Chicago, who are telling them to come to Chicago, the mass murdering center, maybe of the world. I think that right now, London is trying to catch up, as you say, because they have to give up their any large knives and basically put them in a box so they can be taken by radical Islamic Muslims who are then going to kill them with them. And the stabbings now everywhere are insane. And people who want to stand against AR-15s, more people are beaten to death with a club or a hammer than with those rifles. Okay? You need the rifle to defend yourself against what? The robot warriors, the robot horses, the robot dogs that are coming to take your weapons, as Betsy just said, because Obama signed the UN Small Arms Treaty that said that he could send in UN forces, which were sent in through the Strong Cities Initiative, which he also signed, which the Congress did not sign. And then he had Jade Helm 2015, and before he got out of office, he brought in more of these Humvees with antennas on them to be able to ray out energy that can kill you, that can make you think your brain's on fire. They use them in Iraq. They're called poppers when they're in place. It's called active denial when it's on one of these. Hundreds and hundreds of these dispersed throughout America to take over America. The FEMA camps, as you mentioned, they're all set. Had Hillary come to power, they would have used the Obama executive orders, which have all been clumped together so that martial law could be enacted if there was a coronal mass ejection that the president didn't like from the sun, or if there was what we've already seen, what looked to be attacks upon our electrical system, our infrastructure system. So what we're talking about has already happened in China. This is the death of already 3 million. I said 2. But right now, another 1 million are being killed and millions are being set up. If you don't agree with totalitarian Chinese Central Communist Committee encyclicals, that means every single company doing business there. So what happened was Eric Schmidt went there, and we told you he snuck in because he went to North Korea, told North Korea, don't worry, I can give you satellite 5G connection if you'd like, but they're not advanced enough to take it. Then he snuck out the back door, and he went to China, and he was there for a long time, hanging out with his friend James Breyer and other friends that he has there, and they created this fake thing. And the fake thing is what they did to begin with stealing leader technologies, patents, copyrights, in IP, all of it. They stole. There are parts to leader technologies that are still being used as secret communication systems with senior executive service members and more than likely pilgrim societies. That's probably the way they communicate.
And while we're on the subject, when are we going to stop seeing chemtrails in the sky? And who's spraying this crap on us?
Those aren't Americans.
Yes, who are they? And why isn't our military using heat-seeking missiles to pop them out of the sky?
Up until a year and a half ago, it was owned by a Rothschild company under the auspices of calling it a National Weather Service, blump, blump. It had nothing to do with the National. And it is weather service. It's manipulation. The reason we get so much extreme activity in weather now is not global warming or global cooling. You know, they change their mind all the time. Or climate change. No, the climate change is happening because of Fukushima changed the ocean currents, temperatures, and because we're irradiating everything with HAARP, and because we're sending down 5G from satellites, and because there are there's every inch of America is covered by Doppler. And Doppler can control the particles that are left by chemtrails. Now, that is a British company that has a Serco contract that is top secret.
Hello, we're back to the Brits again, trying to take over the world. When are we going to take down the Queen?
If the president says, are we putting those chemtrails in the air? His top intelligence people will tell him, absolutely not, sir. It's not us. We've exposed the company that's doing it, which is, of course, British funded. Now, how about this? There's companies called WeChat, QQ, WhatsApp being used in China. If you use WhatsApp right now, which is a Facebook, because they changed the name so fast, and look at the people who are the dummies of these companies. It's exactly like the cardboard cutouts of Silicon Valley. Eric Schmidt went over there and didn't just, according to Peter Thiel, bring artificial intelligence through DeepMind, which he's the only person who has access to that, and there's only one AI in the whole world. So that is what is running the credit system in China that is putting people in jail by the thousands. The WhatsApp, there were 33 1,000 people in a matter of days put in jail. And when you're put in jail in China, you might not come out. And if you do, you're going to be messed up. Put in jail because they simply had police walking on the street, and they're able with their devices to tell who you're talking to on your phone. So they would pull people over on the street, say, give me your phone. And if they were using WhatsApp, which is kind of a secret way to communicate, I guess, I don't know, I don't use it, then they were put in jail. And I haven't heard any word that any of those people have come out of jail. So they changed the names of these things, and they're controlled by the black box of Eric Schmidt, by what is called total information awareness here in America in the early days, and now it's called basketball. They should call it black cube. And so they change the names all the time. But what is really driving that? Now, this is what I want to tell you.
But before you get there, where's Ruth Bader Ginsburg? We still to this date have not seen a public sighting of her since November 2018. They keep running all this propaganda out on us, but still no public sighting. So I'm calling for, number one, I need some memes. I need lots of memes of Prince Andrew and his pedophilia, or his trips to Epstein Island, or whatever you want to call it. And I also want continued memes on where the hell is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and why are the Supreme Court justices allowing this hoax to continue on the American people?
Well, my guess is Ruth is down shifting her money out of British offshore accounts into probably Luxembourg offshore accounts, because I think the offshore accounts of the Brits, when the monarchy falls here in the next little while, all those offshore accounts will simply dissolve, and that will be the stolen money, and it will go up into thin air, and that will actually stop inflation around the world. But we have to remember that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh are out getting their payoffs right now, and guaranteed, mark my words, they will have a little trip to the Cayman Islands or to Capri or I
think you've got Gorsuch in Italy and Kavanaugh in England, or it's the other way around. Hello, they're doing a summer teaching course. And you couldn't find an American law school to go to? You had to go to Italy and London?
I get the feeling one of them is being conducted into the Knights of Malta, and that's where his offshore account will be. It is not hard to figure this out, folks, okay? All you have to do is just use some common sense. So use your common sense. Ask yourself the question, why did all the social media all pop up at once, all with idiots like Mark Zuckerberg running them? I mean, Mark Zuckerberg can't write a line of code. I swear he should simply be asked by a judge to write a small program. And if he can't, put him in jail because he stole it all, didn't he? So that's the first one. But Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, McAfee, all of these nut jobs.
And while we're on the subject, has McAfee eaten his dick yet?
Remember, Bitcoin is the proof that cyber warfare can create money out of nothing. Bitcoin. Look at all of the absolutely out of cyber thin air money that is being used. And what is it always used for? It's always like the dark net. It's what was the net? The net was DARPA net. It was the CIA being able to connect universities to create weapons. That's what it was used for.
But he promised that Bitcoin was going to get up to some extraordinary price. And if it didn't, he would eat his dick. And he said it many times. So that's why I'm repeating that and reminding people. Well, I'm just
McAfee, Thiel, Milner, Byers, Summers, Sandberg, they're all fake. They keep going from thing to thing that they have no experience in. There's a little bit in the people who were sent in, that would be Peter Thiel and McAfee, early on to not only virus protection, McAfee, that was a CIA company, and PayPal, that was CIA agents being sent in to take over that small little group that was in their garage, that was helping eBay make sure people could buy stuff. What is that? That's the CIA. The CIA are the cyber warfares. Now, they went and they got the IBM Eclipse Foundation. They moved Kapos, who had been at IBM for 26 years, over to the patent office right before to make sure that Serco could have complete control of the patents that we're about to tell you were stolen. All of the patents from Leader Technologies were stolen, put into a thing called IBM Eclipse Foundation. Oh, a foundation, so it must be good.
Oh, yes.
And then they give away the source code that they stole from Leader Technology by setting them up to do a demonstration of their source code and stealing it by literally agents of the U.S. government, James Chandler, General Freeze, and others. And we've talked about that a lot. So what did they do? They took that and instantaneously they thought they had social network. And then for 2 years, they have to hem and haw. And then Leader Technology finishes it. And then, miraculously, all the social networks all pop open all at once. And all those people are all insider traders, all part of the tech cabal. They become billionaires.
Which leads you to your big reveal.
The big reveal is IBM's done it again. They went to China, and we have now revealed this. I only know one other place that it's been revealed. There's a company now that takes the place of IBM Eclipse Foundation. They're doing the exact same thing. They say they have source code they're going to give to everyone, and everyone in China must use this source code. In other words, the backdoors, government backdoors. It's called Open Power Foundation. Look it up. Oh, it looks sweet. And they'll give this to you for free. Oh, they gave you Facebook for free. They gave you Google for free. They gave you Gmail for free. And they surveil, target, attack, and manipulate you on all those levels. Also television. You see, they give you anything they give you for free or a part of a little bundle. That is their control devices. And they make it look like it's so delicious. Well, this is a super vessel they've created. So now they didn't create the first AI. They created the first super vessel. But they do have the AI, and they're trying to work with it. But remember, AI is gaming. And so they had to turn social credit into gaming. And that's what Eric Schmidt did for China. And that's what Peter Thiel told Trump. So Trump knows that open power and everyone connected to it is Chinese communist controlled. Yes, Hillary's part of that, because Hillary controls our crypto keys here in America through the Federal Common Policy Group Certification Authorization Committee that gives her the power through these companies that change names all the time. And hers went to Shanghai, and she controls the internet through crypto keys through Shanghai. Now the Chinese know that, so she thinks she has control over them, but she doesn't know. The Chinese in Hong Kong, that's where we're going to go. I'll end this thing with the Chinese in Hong Kong. But they created open power. They make everyone that has anything to do with them use it. And they call it a foundation, and they say it's free. And what is it really? It is the complete, total communist cyber control of the world. It was to come here through their 5G implementation through Broadcom. It is to come here through Eric Schmidt's 5G in his satellites, because he's already sold out to them. It is taking over the whole world if they can. So the beauty of it is, I told you the solution is very simple. Let me just describe this a little bit more. So, as you know, they have concentration camps for the Uyghur people in the northwest part of China because they're Muslims. So it didn't take a lot of Eric Schmidt's fine-tuning to figure out that those people needed to be turned into communists. And so they put them in these concentration camps and say it's vocational training, and half of them die there. And others who come out are so messed up and they're so brainwashed that they're non-functional. And they just put another 2 million people into the program, took people in with cameras, and said that it's a wonderful, successful program. Now, what is really going on? It is complete communist control. They're going to get rid of all dissenters. That's the same thing going on here in America. If you're a Republican, you're on the right or even the middle. If you're not far left, you're a terrorist according to all these systems I just told you are here. Through George Soros, through Clinton, through Schmidt, and many others. I just gave you the tip of the iceberg. So, Open Power Foundation is pure evil. And anyone that has anything to do with it is an evil communist Chinese. Period. There's no debating this. And what did Trump do? He said, sorry, Huawei, we're actually going to go after, top people in your company, and we're going to kick you out of this country. We're going to kick IBM laptops out of this country. We're going to kick IBM, anything to do with any microchip that comes from China, out. We're going to kick all semiconductors out, and we're going to stop all association with anyone with Huawei. All of Britain already has most of Britain has their 5G in the cities, and it's all through Huawei. Parts of Europe were having it installed. Trump has now said, complete sanctions on anyone who has anything to do with Huawei. He got what the truth is. So us, and others out there screaming this must have come to his ears, and he said, out of the blue, executive order through sanctions, Huawei, then no U.S. contracts. That hasn't fully been implemented, but that basically means QQ, WeChat, WhatsApp, Tencent, and everything Jack Ma does will all be sanctioned. And everyone having anything to do with anything but American 5G will be sanctioned. Now, when will Trump wake up about 5G? This is a war. I'm not sure he knows what the first bombs were. It almost happened that Broadcom took over America, and Broadcom is Chinese. So the Chinese said they would take over America without a shot. These are the people who say you can have one child, and if you have the second child, you have to murder them. The Chinese are not based upon human consciousness. They are based upon group soul consciousness, animal consciousness. When you fall back to the least common denominator and then control everyone else through totalitarianism, then you have communism. And that's what's going on here in America through Richard C. Walker's Internet of Things PFN track system. So that's what I had to say today. And I didn't want to be in any way dissuaded from telling you this so that you will understand that we are not losing, that what Trump is doing, especially with his new executive orders in relationship to social media, hang on, folks. This is a war. It is done. It was built up over 100 years through Cecil Rhodes' plan and the takeover of all communications in the world. It's going to take a moment to win this battle. But China, we know your game, and you're not taking over America.